Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. If you've been tuning in over the last couple of weeks, we have been chatting a lot about our annual Data Connect conference and our Data Viz competition. We've had a couple of interviews with folks as well. So if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. We are, like I mentioned over the last couple of weeks, really focused on the Data Viz competition. We have been conducting interviews with our top 10 finalists, which is incredible. So I would love to dive a little bit into like the context around the competition, and then I'll hand it over to Jade to share a little bit more about her presentation. So the annual Data Connect conference here in Columbus, Ohio is July 11th and 12th this year. At each event, we host an annual Data Viz competition, which is supported by our friends at Apexon. We get hundreds of applications in, and then with Apexon's help, we narrow it down somehow to a top 10. And then these top 10 folks are the folks that we've been having conversations with over the last couple of weeks. So I am excited to introduce everyone to Jade, who is in the top 10 this year. Jade, if you don't mind diving into your viz, who you are, just kind of giving us like a high level overview of what you've been working on and kind of what your inspiration was.
Sure. Yes, of course. Thank you. First, I just want to say thanks for letting me, I ended up in the top 10. I couldn't believe it. This viz is very special to me, and I'll go into why, but it just, thank you. And so many of my other friends, people I know, and like the Tableau community have made top 10 too, and just so happy for them. Like if you haven't checked out the vizes, they're all beautiful. They're all so unique and cool. Like definitely go check them out. They're inspiring. But I guess a little bit about me. My name is Jade. I live in Greenville, South Carolina. And I was married recently, so just kind of like fresh in marriage these last couple of years. And we have, yes, so exciting. He's great. We have 2 fur babies. We have a pit bull, and I've got my little tuxedo cat. So they do not play well, but that's been fun to navigate. I work currently for Analytic Vision as a visual analytics consultant. And through that and other things, I'm also a Tableau ambassador, like big in the Tableau community, just because this data viz space is so fun to me. My latest hobbies, I feel like I'm 3 years late to the craze or something, but I'm obsessed with pickleball right now. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. It's if you haven't tried it yet, it's weird, but it's just really fun and accessible. And boba tea, I'm just loving this stuff. And something that I just wanted to add at the end is that last year I was diagnosed with the Chiari malformation, and that's what inspired this whole viz. But I'll dig into that a little bit more later. I'll bounce around. So I thought at first I would back up. I'm using Miro, just FYI. It's an online whiteboarding tool. I love it to organize all of my thoughts. But I used Miro to, right now I'm using it just to show my process. So like, to build the end result, the viz, I used Miro and some other things to research what the heck is a Chiari. I had never heard of it before. And then I ended up kind of drawing out what I thought I wanted, and then did some stuff in Figma, and then brought it into Tableau. So I can dig into each of those pieces. But like I mentioned, when I was diagnosed, I had never heard of this before. And apparently a lot of people haven't heard of it. It's very common when you are diagnosed. You're told you have a brain condition. You're scared. You don't know what it is. And so when I found out, the data nerd in me was like researching, what is this? What's going on? And the awareness of this is so low that I was like inspired to create a viz to say like, who does this affect? What is it? Like just share it anywhere and everywhere with the world, and just get more information about this condition out there. But it's funny because as I'm researching and figuring this out and mapping out a viz, learning what this is, creating this Tableau viz was actually very healing for me. It helped me process a very scary journey. And I know a lot of people express themselves maybe through painting or writing or music, and apparently I express myself through data viz. So if this is your method, don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable or brave in this space and share your heart. Let's see. Like I said, my process was first to research what is a Chiari, and I'll dig a little bit more when I get to my viz, but it was actually really cool. One of my best friends during this whole process got me this book. It's called Conquer Chiari, and she came to visit me, and as I was digging through it, I was like, dang, there's a lot of data in here. Like, this is igniting the like data nerd in me. So I used a lot of the Conquer Chiari's research and their foundation and their just fact sheets and everything to put this together, and dug into a little bit more about the treatments and surgeries that happen to help alleviate pain and like fix this for some people, and also dug into some other things here. But so I've been doing research. I've been diagnosed for a few months, and then I just like hopped on a plane and went to Tableau conference, which is pretty cool. I go into that experience a little bit in my viz, but leaving Tableau conference, I was kind of just inspired of like, okay, I want to bring awareness to this brain condition, but how do I do it? What does that look like? And on the plane ride home, I drew this, which it's so rough. Please ignore my chicken scratch. But this is kind of where it started in my head. I wanted to go high level stats to symptoms and treatments and outcomes and success rate, but then also share a little bit about my journey and a timeline that happened. And through this, I started doing like a journal, which I never journaled, but it was actually really cool and really helpful for me to like journal certain experiences or fears that I had that day or wins that I had that day, symptoms, side effects, and everything. And it was really healthy, really good for me. So then this, I feel like this is an Instagram swipe of before and after. There were lots of iterations in between. But from here, I put research, design, and story into Figma. And so like all of my text and my background and my images are in Figma. And I wanted to overlay the interactive Tableau elements. But this gave me a space to kind of like type out the story, start out with how I was diagnosed and what happened, and bring it all together. Kind of get the same color. This purple color is the official like, Chiari awareness color, which I think is pretty cool. It's beautiful. Purple's my favorite color. So that worked out well. And then eventually I took the Figma image into Tableau and overlaid all of the interactive elements. So I'll show you what the viz looked like. Any questions so far? Like, okay. So here I'll just say like every person with Chiari, like it seems like their story is different through this and through just me posting about it, asking questions, connecting through family. Like I did meet a handful of people who have this condition. And so I want to say, one, I'm not the expert and my journey is unique, but these stats are kind of global. But I was diagnosed after coming down from like a snowboarding trip. I started getting a migraine that was just awful. I've never had anything like it. It's one of the like most painful things I've ever experienced. And I went numb in my hands and my mouth, and I couldn't speak. And so my husband took me to the ER, and they thought I was having a stroke. And so they did all these tests. They figured I did not have a stroke, but they saw one small thing on my CT scan, and it's all this technical jargon that I'd never heard before. And it was like, hey, suggesting Chiari malformation. Consider an MRI for follow-up. I was like, okay, don't know what that is. But got another MRI, talked to my doctor, and learned that I did have a Chiari malformation. And what that is, so I'll just scroll down a little bit. In normal brain, the tonsils are nice and cozy, tucked up in close to the brainstem. That's like everything's good, healthy. But if you have a Chiari malformation, the tonsils actually fall down into the spinal cord. They protrude a little bit, and that causes a lot of pressure around the brain and the head, and definitely in the spinal cord. And it blocks the natural fluid from going, into your brain, down into your spine. It blocks that and can cause lots of side effects, and can have long-term issues if, not addressed. So what's funny is they don't really know what causes it. They think it could be something that happened at birth. Some people have this and will never, they can be asymptomatic and never know. But if you do experience symptoms, they usually find it on an MRI. But the main takeaway that I like to share is it just means that your brain is too big for your skull. So you could maybe take away that win. There's some high stats at the top, who it affects, men versus women. You can kind of hover over and see a little bit of the interactivity. But after that, I go down into the symptoms and I color them differently. If it's dark, it means I experienced that symptom and the percentage of people who experienced it. If it's a lighter purple, I didn't, but others did. It can range anywhere from mild headaches to severe migraines that you maybe have once a week, and it truly impacts like your day-to-day life. It's considered a invisible illness, so you may see someone who's fine, one day playing pickleball, and then the next day they're out for 2 days with vertigo and dizziness and different things. But you can hover over and see how many people it affects and a little bit more about the symptom, which is pretty cool. But I also dig into this one, syringomyelia, also known as a syrinx. It's a cyst in the spinal cord. That one was the biggest concern for me. So I dug into this a little bit more. Because of that blockage, the natural flow of that cerebral spinal fluid is disrupted, and it can cause that to pool in your spine. And that's like a big concern. If untreated, it can cause long-term damage like paralysis. It also has a lot of other effects. And a lot of people with Chiari end up getting these. Sometimes the syrinx is small and they're like, doctors will say, hey, let's wait and see. So down here, I go down to like treatment and outcomes. Depending on your symptoms, doctors say, hey, like if you can live life normally, take Advil, take, small things and just wait and see. They can treat them individually. But the biggest thing, or I guess kind of concern, is sometimes if the syrinx is sizable and too big, like because of the pressure on the spinal cord and all the issues that come with that, they suggest brain surgery, which again was super duper scary to hear. It's crazy to think about. I had my surgery 6 months ago, and I mean, I feel wonderful. I feel great. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but I would agree that it was successful. I feel better. My syrinx is getting smaller. Like it's a huge win. But I wanted to include stats about that about half the people undergo the surgery. It has a very high success rate. This is according to patients if things improved or got worse. Because I will say, like, sometimes patients do have to go back to the hospital or have another surgery. Like, again, every treatment is so different. This is a lot of text. I won't go too crazy into it unless you want to read more, but it's more specifics about my specific treatment that I got at Duke Medical Center. I can't rave more about the process there. It was painful and scary, but it was great. I'm healing well. And then I go into a little bit more about the process and recovery. This is for a typical timeline where things go well. You have your surgery, you're in ICU, in the hospital. You have, once the surgery is complete, you have the staples removed. You rest at home for 3 weeks to 3 months, and then you can typically go back to home activity within 6 months or a year. So it's hard for about a year, and then things get better. 80% of patients say they would do the surgery again. And so I think that's great that there is a treatment, maybe not like a cure, but there is a treatment for something like this, and that's encouraging. Down at the bottom, this is where I weave in my experience, my journey, my highs, my lows, my fears, my wins, my family, friends, the timeline of where it started and where it ended. And this is the part where I said, it truly helped me process. Like, in my head, this was just going to be a small tooltip to say, here's what happened. But it was very healing and very good. And it just helped. Looking back now, it helps me see, wow, a lot happened in 8 months. We just got married, and a couple months later, brain condition, brain surgery. Oh my goodness, what's happening? And so it was just beautiful, really, to see how my husband, friends, family, church, people at work, just rallied around me. Even people in the Tableau community. It was just wonderful. So this is a timeline of what happened, and you can dig into that if you want to. But it's really, I don't know, my whole goal through this was to bring awareness to a brain condition that so many people struggle with and have hurts with, and every story is different. And so thank y'all for sharing this in the top 10 and letting me have this space here to share again. Down at the bottom, I share all my sources and a link out to Conquer Chiari, which is where I got most of my data. They also do a walk once a year. September is Chiari Awareness Month. And so they do a walk once a year, and you can learn more about that. And then my specific case, I focus more on adult Chiari malformation, but this does also impact children. So I'll have a link out there too if people want to learn more. But that's my viz in a nutshell and my story.
Awesome, Jade. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think one of the things that stood out to me the most about your visualization is just, I think you offered a really good balance of like showcasing the issue itself and then also diving a little bit into your journey and really hitting on the fact that like not everyone has the same journey. So like these are all things that could potentially happen or that you could be experiencing versus like what you actually experienced. And I loved that bottom visualization where you kind of charted out your timeline and like what that looked like for you. So I appreciate you sharing, your personal journey as well. I would love to, if folks are interested in learning a little bit more about other projects you've worked on or want to connect to learn a little bit more about you, where can they find you?
Awesome. So I am still on Twitter. That's where the tableau space is. I have a blog too. It's called Data Unjaded. And you can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn. This is my Tableau Public. I'm happy to chat all things data viz. I have a little bit more than just my personal journey. Do a lot of fun things, lots of superhero vises and different things. So love sharing Tableau tips. I guess I could show my blog.
Yeah, feel free.
I typed that in on that's going to be embarrassing. But these are the other top 10 again. That was fun. I have a blog and there's more information about me, kind of how I got started in data viz, where I've worked, and you can definitely get connected with me through Twitter, LinkedIn. And I like to post a lot of like Tableau tips or even just the process of building a dashboard, like where you should start with your why, how you can go from like that drawing, if you have a project, personal or at work, you can go with your problem statement, dig into the why a little bit, go from that to wireframing to your actual dashboard. I'm kind of passionate about like the whole beginning to end process. So I have that stuff there.
Awesome.
But yeah, thank y'all.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Before we go, I do want to showcase where folks can actually go through and interact with your viz, as well as the other top vizzes, and then go through the voting process as well. So let me switch screens here. So if you go to the Data Connect conference website, dataconnectconf.com, you can learn a little bit more about the event itself and then also dive a little bit further into these data visualizations. So up in the top corner here, there's the Data Connect conference. Click into Data Viz competition. You can learn a little bit more about the cash prizes that are available for the winners. If you'd like to check out previous competitions, you have the ability to do so. And then if you scroll down a little further, you'll see our top 10 finalists for this year. Like Jade said, they are all incredible. So certainly feel free to explore and engage. And we've had some interviews already. We'll be doing some in the future. But if you are interested in diving a little bit further in, you can click on whichever one you're interested in checking out. You can learn a little bit more about the viz and kind of the inspiration behind it, the mediums used. And then if you'd like to navigate that a little more strategically and have a little fun kind of clicking around, if you click into view entry, that link will take you directly to that visualization where you can interact directly. And then once you've had an opportunity to do that with each one of these, click in to cast your vote. It'll have you vote for your favorite. And like I mentioned, or maybe I didn't mention at the beginning of this, I've mentioned it several times over the last few months. The top 5 finalists will actually have an opportunity to join us in Columbus for the event. We have like a data viz gallery, kind of like art exhibit style setup for these top 5. We do a little presentation on day 1, just video recording, so folks kind of walking through their vizzes. And then we have an awards ceremony on day 2. So lots of fun things going on actually at the event with these as well. So yes, if you are viewing this now, please jump onto the website, check all of these vizzes out, and then vote for your favorite. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, Jade, for joining us today. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to kind of walk through this. And yeah, we wish you luck in the competition, and hopefully
Thank
we'll see
you.
you in Columbus in July.
Cool. Thank y'all so much for having me.